it's Kylie here. Hi everyone. We have done a video about top 10 location, but you would also want to have travel tips if you ever travel in England all by yourself, so you would need travel tips. And I myself have gathered because I've traveled in England all by myself, so I've gathered a lot of tips. It will help you guys. So serious rights violation in Xinjiang. China has long stifled the twins' perceived threats to Chinese. Okay, so that has been read. So that campaign has resulted in what the UN's top human rights office in an August report called serious human rights violations against Uyghur and other predominantly Muslim ethnic minorities that could amount to crimes against humanity. China firmly denies this and allegations of wrongdoing in the region. A looming population crisis. End of one-child policy. Plummeting birth rates and the economic risk of an aging society and shrinking workforce pushed China to overhaul decades of restrictive birth controls, ending its one-child policy in 2015. The demographic crisis continued, and in 2021, China further relaxed its rules, allowing families to have 3 children. But for many young people grappling with unattainable home prices, long workdays, and a challenging job market, the government push for marriage and children remains unappealing, especially for women who still bear the brunt of child raising due to entrenched gender norms. We are the last generation, a viral slogan embraced by China's disaffected young people. Crackdown on Hong Kong. Mass pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong in 2019, which brought hundreds of thousands to the streets, posed the greatest challenge for the city's government since the handover from British to Chinese rule in 1997. Beijing responded by backpacking a board crackdown, through the introductions of a national security law in 2020. That crisis has been used to crush the city opposition's movement, overhaul its electoral system, silence its outspoken media, and cripple its once vibrant civil society. 196 people have been arrested under the national security law. As of June, 124 individuals and 5 companies have been prosecuted. 10,277 people have been arrested for their involvement in the 2019 protests, among whom 2,804 have been prosecuted. We must ensure that Hong Kong is administered by patriots. There's no country or region in the world where its people will allow an patriotic or even treasonous force or figure to take power. Chinese leader Xi Jinping at the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's handover on July 1, 2022. Li Wenzhou, whose husband was imprisoned during the 1709 crackdown protest by shaving her head in Beijing in December 2018. Stifling dissent. Xi has overseen a mass crackdown on civil society, choking on an already limited sector by targeting or jailing human rights lawyers, academics, journalists, feminists, and activists. The C era has also included broad efforts to smoother all forms of dissent and booster the control of information, including by ramping up surveillance online censorship. During the so-called 709 crackdown in 2015, around 300 human rights lawyers and activists were rounded up for interrogation, according to monitoring groups, with some later handed prison terms, a sweeping stake back blow to civil rights in China. I will keep defending Wang Quanzhang's rights. I will take care of our child and wait for Wang Quanzhang to come home. Li Wenzu, wife of prominent human rights lawyer Wang Quanzhang, imprisoned during the 709 crackdown set in 2019. Wang, who was formally sentenced by a Chinese court that year, was released from prison in 2020. Unveiled students returned to school for the first time after mass shooting that killed 21st. I want to just shelter her as a mom, just keep her home. But of course I don't want her to live in fear, said the mother of one student in Texas community. Students and teachers returned to school Tuesday in the heartbroken community of Uvalde, Texas, for the first time since 19 children and 2 educators were killed during a mass shooting at an elementary school in May. As children return to the classroom, the town continues to mourn those who were killed and demand accountability in deadly shooting at Robb Elementary School, during which law enforcement officers waited more than an hour before entering a 4th grade classroom where the gunman carried out the attack. The first day brought anguish for parents whose children died in the massacre. Stephen Gracia, whose 9-year-old daughter Elena was killed, said he was an emotional wreck Tuesday morning and felt a surge of anger. I couldn't find the tears, but then I thought back to my Ellie and know she wouldn't want me to feel that way, he wrote in a post on social media. Thinking of all the first day of school with my Ellie, no one expects to have to bury their child after leaving them at school, he said in another post. Jennifer Lugo, Ellie's mother, said in a post the night before the first day of school that her stomach was in a big knot, and she was sure the family would be leaving the house with tears and not smiles. I'm missing one of my babies, she said, adding that Ellie loved school and was always excited to get up and get ready with her sister. Kimberly and Felix Rubio, whose daughter Lexi was killed, said ahead of the first day of school that they were frightened for their 5 other children. I don't know that the school district has done everything that I would like to see as far as security measures, but I also know it's important for the kids to have some sort of routine, so trying to balance what's best for them, Kimberly said. Lexi has been on her mind, she said, and meeting her youngest son's teacher was incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to go on campus knowing that Lexi is not going to be meeting a teacher this year, Kimberly said. Students across the state were marooned to school Tuesday in support of the Uvalde community. Robb Elementary has not reopened since the shooting, and its surviving student has been scattered to different schools in the area. The school district also added virtual options this year for parents who didn't feel comfortable sending their children back into classroom. Parents arriving at some local school Tuesday morning were greeted with taller fences, increased security, and cameras, a large law enforcement presence, more counselors, and even emotional support dogs. Outside Dalton Elementary School in Uville, Esther said that one of her children had attended Robb Elementary at the time of the shooting and had received counseling because she was traumatized. But Natalie, whose children are 7 and 8 years old, says she felt safer with the added security measure. I'm on the positive side, so I hope that what happened last year won't happen again, she said. For right now, I think they are in good hands. Pre-kindergarten teacher Belinda Remise says she wasn't nervous about the start of the school year in the shadow of the tragedy. She's happy that school is starting again, but also just a bit sad for the kids, she said. Her nephew attended Robb Elementary last school year. We asked him and he just stayed quiet. So I know he's a bit nervous, but we are happy that school is starting back up, and when we start, I think it will get all better, she said. We have to just continue to move forward. Late last month, Uville School Police Chief Pete Arredondo was fired by Texas City's school board, which voted anonymously to oust him. The embattled chief removed capped 3 months of outrage over the botched law enforcement response to the shooting at Robb Elementary. 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds passed from the time police entered the building May 24 until the gunman was killed, Texas Department of Public Safety Director Steve McCraw has said. A scathing report released in July by Texas House Committee investigating the mass shooting found systemic failures and poor decision making by law enforcement and the school district. And her husband Julio have made helping their 10-year-old daughters return to school a priority. The girl, Middleton, was at Robb Elementary the day of the shooting. The family has enrolled Middleton in a private school, which they say made safety upgrades after the shooting. I want to just shelter her as a mom and just keep her home, but of course, I don't want her to live in fear, she said. Here's what you need to know about Liz Truss, Britain's new leader. Sometime compared to the UK's first female leader, Margaret Thatcher, Truss has also been accused of being a political killman. London as a girl and a young woman, Liz Truss protests against then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and called for the abolition of the monarchy. Decades later, having risen through the ranks of Thatcher's Conservative Party, Truss, 47, on Tuesday was appointed to the United Kingdom Prime Minister by Queen Elizabeth II. As she headed to No 10 Downing Street, Truss looks eager to rule in the image of the famously blunt and strong-willed iconoclast whose legacy still divides this country. Her victory means she will become the country's third female leader, after Thatcher and Theresa May. The Iron Lady, as Thatcher was known, was the 20th century longest-serving British leader and birthed an ideology, Thatcherism, that still dominates the party with its low tax, high-growth economic liberalism. Serving as primer from 1979 to 1990. When she was forced to resign by her own government, Thatcher was a strident cold warrior and a supporter of free markets, and especially close to President Ronald Reagan, one of Britain's most divisive prime minister, revile and revere in almost equal measure to this day. She is best known for her policies. She's best known for her policy on deregulation, privatizing state-owned companies, and smashing the power of unions. She died in 2013. Whether international or not, observers observers and the public have pointed out Truss appears to have a habit of recreating iconic Thatcher public appearance. While serving as Foreign Secretary, Truss was accused of consciously mirroring Thatcher by posing in a Challenger 2 tank while visiting British troops in Estonia. A famous picture of Thatcher in a Challenger tank in Germany in 1986. When visiting Russia, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at the Kremlin in February, she wore a fox for hat that again was compared to that worn by Thatcher on a Russia trip in 1987. During the Conservative leadership contest, Truss wore an outfit strikingly similar to one Thatcher had worn for an election broadcast in 1979, a black blazer and a white shirt with a bow tie at the front. For Truss critics, the similarities to Thatcher's are the best premature and worst ludicrous. I don't think there is anything in it. They're completely different people. Truss supporter Andrea Andino, 55, insisted outside the venue where Truss was announced the new leader of the Conservative Party on Monday. Andino wore a t-shirt in Liz with Truss. She's different. I don't think she will follow Thatcher in any way, she added. Timothy Kirkhope, a Conservative member of the upper chamber of the British Parliament, also dismissed the comparison, but for different reasons. I regard any comparison between Truss and Thatcher as derisory, he said in an email. I worked as a government whip under Margaret Thatcher. She was a colossus in politics. There is absolutely no way that Truss could ever get anywhere near the achievements of Thatcher, he said. Truss herself complained to BBC Radio 4 in July that women tend to get compared to Thatcher whether they resemble her or not. I'm on my own person, she said. James Cleverly, who served as education minister under Boris Johnson, echoes these sentiments. She's a woman in politics, though comparisons are inevitable, and he said, she is Liz Truss, she's her own person. To those of us who have studied Thatcher, she's hardly in the same league, at least on current form, said Professor Tim Bell, an expert on British politics and the Conservative Party at Queen Mary University of London. While Thatcher was regarded then and now was a conviction politician who embodied her beliefs, Truss has been accused of being a political chameleon, flip-flopping on major policies and criticized for lacking hard and fast principles. She was an activist for the centrist Liberal Democrat Party as a college student. We do not believe people are born to be ruled. She said while arguing passionately for the abolition of the monarchy at the party conference in 1994, a testament to just how far she has traveled politically. Truss campaigned for Britain to remain in the European Union, only flip side and later support Brexit once the country has voted to leave in 2016. The commitment to Brexit and unlocking its supposed benefits is now a core pillar of her platform, an attitude that could lead to a heated and expensive legal battle with the European Union and the Republic of Ireland over the complex of Northern Ireland Protocol. While Truss said during the Brexit referendum campaign that Britain shouldn't spend years in massive divorce from Europe, she may be about to preside over exactly this. Born in Oxford in 1975, Mary Elizabeth Truss is the daughter of John Kenneth, a math professor at the University of Leeds, and Priscilla Truss, a nurse. In the biography section of her website, she described her parents as left wing. When she was 4, the family relocated to Paisley, a town near Glasgow in Scotland. They moved again in 1985 to the northern English city of Leeds in West Yorkshire. Truss frequently refers to herself as a Yorkshire woman. Yorkshire woman, a falsy attempt to contract her upbringing with the largely affluent Southern English background of many conservative members and activists. Throughout her leadership campaign, Truss said her vision of conservatism was inspired by seeing fellow students at the local public high school struggling in an overly bureaucratic failing system. Many of the children I was at school with were let down by low expectations, poor education standards, and a lack of opportunity, she said at her leadership launch July 14. Former student and staff at Raleigh and also local politicians dispute Truss' portrayal, accusing her of unfairly meddling the school for political gain. It is located in one of the most affluent areas of Leeds, and it certainly could never be described fairly as a sink school, he said via email, referring to British terminology for a failing and underachieving school. Her contentions about her deprived background as the daughter of the university professor are a load of nonsense, Crithope said. After graduating from Oxford in 1969, she abandoned the Liberal Democrats and joined the Conservative Party, the dismay of her left-leaning father. He was quite horrified, she told the Times newspaper in 2012. After college, Truss worked as a graduate trainee accountant for the energy giant Shell and later the telecommunications company Cable and Wireless. In 2000, she married fellow accountant Hugh O'Leary, and they have 2 daughters. After a youth on the center-left university prime Truss for conservation to the right. I met Tories and I realized that they didn't have 2 heads and were actually good people, she told the Daily Mail in 2019. Truss stood as a Tory candidate in the election of 2001 and 2005, losing both times. It would take another 5 years before she was finally elected as the MP for South West Norfolk. Truss has served in various cabinet positions since 2012 under the governments of David Cameron, Theresa May, and Johnson. It was under Johnson that she was promoted to foreign minister, one of the most powerful positions in government. Truss was leading the transitions to a post-Brexit trading rim and forging new diplomatic ties. The Conservative Party may have ditched Johnson, but his brand of populism looks set to stay under the new prime minister. She stayed loyal to Johnson. She told the membership that they want to hear on the economy and taxations rather than any hard truths. She is a fierce Brexiteer and an anti-woke warrior, Bell said. Truss may be compared to Thatcher, but her critics believe she has much more in common with her predecessor. I regret that a Liz Truss premiership would be a continuation of the Boris Johnson style, Kipper said. A Truss government would be even more divisive and include individuals who are notable only for their extreme or eccentric view, he said. Steve Bannon expected to face state indictment in New York. The Manhattan DA office had opened an investigation into Bannon in connection with his role in a charity that was supposed to use private funds to build the U.S.-Mexico border wall. Almost 2 years after he received a pardon from President Donald Trump in a federal fraud case. Steve Bannon is expected to face state indictment in New York. In a segment first shared with NBC News on Tuesday night, Bannon said New York has now decided to pursue phony charges against me 60 days before the midterm election. This is nothing more than a Persian political weaponization of the criminal justice system, added Bannon, who once was the chief of White House strategist in the Trump administration. The statement came after the Washington Post, citing people familiar with the situation, reported that Bannon planned to surrender Thursday. NBC News has asked the Manhattan District Attorney Office for comment. The district attorney office last year opened an investigation into Bannon in connection with his role in a charity that was supposed to use private funds to build the U.S.-Mexico border wall, NBC News reported in February 2021. The previous year, Bannon was indicted with 3 other people on charges of taking money donated to help build a wall along the southern border. Federal prosecutors alleged that Bannon's We Build the Wall campaign, which raised more than $25 million, defrauded hundreds of thousands of donors who contributed to an effort to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, one of Trump's key campaign promises. Trump pardoned Bannon in January 2021, but presidential pardons apply only to federal charges, meaning New York is not prohibited from pursuing similar charges. I am proud to be a leading voice on protecting our borders, and building a wall to keep our country safe from drugs and violent criminals, Bannon said in Tuesday night's statement. They are coming after all of us, not only President Trump and myself. I am never going to stop fighting. In fact, I have not yet begun to fight. They will have to kill me first. Separately, Bannon was convicted of contempt of Congress after he refused to answer questions from the House January 6 committee. A jury found him guilty on 2 counts of contempt of Congress in July. A woman jumped from a moving car after being kidnapped by a man who asked for water, authorities say. Jeremy Alaska, 31, is accused of holding the woman at knife point in Washington state. Authorities in Washington state identified a suspect Tuesday who they say carjacked a woman and held her at knife point until she escaped by jumping from a moving car. The woman had given water to Jeremy Alaska, 31, after he approached her vehicle asking for some in an incident that began in Vancouver, Washington. Early Saturday, the Clark County Sheriff's Office said in a news release. Alaska is expected to be charged with kidnapping, robbery, and attempted eluding after he fled from officers, the sheriff's office said. The woman, who has not been identified, told authorities after she gave Alaska water, she allowed him into her car. Alaska produced a knife and used the threat of violence to take control of the car, the release alleged, adding that he drove roughly 15 miles to the city of Camas. Alaska slowed down on a dirt road, authorities said, and the woman jumped from the car and started banging on the doors of the nearby homes. A resident, James Wood, told NBC affiliate KGW of Portland, Oregon, that he and his family awoke around 4:30 a.m. to the sound of a woman pounding on the back door of his home and moving the doorknob. She was desperate to get in, which I can't understand, Wood told the station. She told me that someone tried to kill her and someone stole her car. Was told the station that he called 911 after deputies searched the area and found the car. The driver fled, according to the release. 11 minutes later, and about 8 miles away, authorities from the sheriff's office and the Vancouver Police Department were able to pin the car. And the release says Alexa was taken into custody after he tried to flee the vehicle. The release says he refused to provide his name and was identified through other names. The sheriff's office says it wasn't immediately clear whether he has a lawyer to speak on his behalf. Police say that they have found.
Turning now to breaking news in the investigation of that missing Memphis jogger and mother of two. Police confirmed today the body of 34-year-old Eliza Fletcher has.
Police say that they have found the remains of missing jogger Eliza Fletcher. Memphis authorities have confirmed a body found during the search for Eliza Fletcher was identified as the 34-year-old woman who was abducted during a run Friday morning. NBC News just Chris reports on the news details police have released and the latest charges against the suspect charged with kidnapping Fletcher. And that is the end for today. Hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya. Oh, and by the way, all the tips I gave you last time, I hope it worked, because it worked for me, and I think that it worked for most people with average memory. I myself have average memory, and I couldn't learn anything besides English because I hate everything. I hate every subject besides English. The only thing that I find English is interesting because it was another language. And I hate math. I hate math. I especially hate math, and I don't want to, calculate anything. And I not good at calculating things, so that's why I hate math. And about English is that when I was small, when I was about 9 years old, I watched Disney Channel a lot, and that is when I know I like English, because Disney Channel is all about English. If you don't understand English, so yeah, I watch it, and although I don't understand a word it was saying about what is the movie about and what it's called, I just remember the melody. Phineas the Verb, right? I just remember that the song in the intro song right from the start. I remember the melody, the way they pronounce, but I don't know for sure how they pronounce it. So I just remember the melody and I sing along. So that is when I remember all the stuff and all the words that I accidentally remember by remembering the melody. So when I said that music can help you a lot, I mean it. So if you guys try it, and if you have any, positive result, comment below, and follow for more if you like my tips and you find it effective. So yeah, thank you and goodbye. Oh, one more thing. I also like English, and I only good at speaking, and I'm not good at grammar. Yeah, I also not good at grammar. I only good at speaking because I can, mumbling to the sound, and like for example, they sing like what's going on, so I will like mama mama. I remember the sound. I don't remember what they're saying, and I don't know what they're saying, but I remember the sound. So when I grow up, it means when I was in secondary school or something like that, I learned it and I know, oh, so that's what it is. That what it was about, and yeah, that's how I learned it. And I only good at speaking because I remember the basic words, the basic step that they say. For example, hello, how are you? How are you today? You're good? Are you good? How are you today? I'm good. Thank you for asking. You know, like just basic stuff, and I get better and better through movies. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got. I don't know if I could help you with that, but I think for myself, I'm getting better, and you have to learn. You you cannot learn English without learning it. You know, without actually learning it. So you have to put time and effort into learning stuff, and eventually it will come out great. It will get you a positive result and a, a very good result that you want. So don't give up and don't lose trust in yourself, especially when you find it hard. Just took a break. Just take a break and get some air, go outside, have fun with your friends for a day if you're feeling stressed about studying stuff, and after that you get it together and yeah, just study, dude. That's it. By this incident that our investigators are working hard to establish the entire sequence of events which result in this man's death. Teenager stabbed to death and another critically ill after a highly worrying incident in East London. Two teenagers were found with stab wounds following a disturbance involving a large group of people in Lichfield Road in the East London borough of Tower Hamlets at about midnight on Sunday. A teenager had been stabbed to death, and another is critically ill in hospital after a highly worrying incident. Scotland Yard said they found two males with stab wounds after being called to a disturbance around midnight involving a large group of people in Lichfield Road, Tower Hamlets, East London. A murder investigation is now underway, but no arrests have been made yet, said police. The teenager who died, believed to be aged 17, was pronounced dead at 1:54 a.m. on Sunday. The second man taken to the hospital is thought to be 18. Detective Chief Inspector Mark Rogers of the Met Specialist Crime Command said, "This is a highly worrying incident that has left one young man dead and another fighting for his life in the hospital. I'm aware of reports saying that about 100 people armed with weapons were involved. The information does not appear to be wholly accurate. We know a significant number of people were caught up in this incident, but not necessarily directed, involved, or armed with weapons." The force said it has yet to arrest anyone in connection with the stabbing. Anyone who has information that can help, including pictures or footage of the incident, is asked to call the Metropolitan Police Major Incident Room on 020-8345-3715, quoting reference Operation Wildcat. Alternative, call Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800-555 and 111. The incident man shot dead in West London. The incident comes hours after a boy believed to be 12 was stabbed in the East London borough of Newham. Meanwhile, police have arrested a 29-year-old man on suspicion of murder following the death of a man in West Kensington in London. Officers were called to Kensington High Street at about 2 a.m. on Sunday. They found a man believed to be in his 20s with gunshot wounds and provided emergency first aid until the arrival of the London Ambulance Service and London Air Ambulance. The man was taken to a central London hospital where he later died. Man uses his car to stop out of control vehicle with ill driver on busy motorway. John Barlow said he thought the driver was dead when he first noted the Audi in the outside lane of the M62 going slower and slower. A motorist has described the dramatic moment he used his car to stop another vehicle whose driver had fallen seriously ill at the wheel on a busy motorway. John Barlow thought the other driver was dead when he saw the car heading slowly along the overtaking lane of the M62 near Leeds on Saturday. Fearing a crash, he managed to get his Hyundai in front of the ill driver's Audi and then take his foot off the accelerator and bring the car behind to a stop. He was then able to get out and help the man, who was barely breathing. After trying to break into the locked vehicle using his elbow, Mr. Barlow was helped by a tradesman with a hammer to get access to the stricken middle-aged driver. Then tie his head back to free his airway. Others then stopped to help, including a doctor on the other carriageway of the M62 who traveled to the next junction, turned around, then battled through the backup traffic to get to work with a defibrillator. Mr. Barlow, a 59-year-old martial arts instructor from Middleton, Greater Manchester, told the PA news agency he had first noted the 80 in the outside lane going slower and slower and pulled alongside. He said he looked dead at the wheel. I could see his lips were blue and he had blood trickling down his face. His head was tilting forward. I thought, oh my God, I got to stop him. I matched his speed, then eased my way in front of him, and then slowly took my foot off the accelerator. He was driving his wife, Kylie, and son, Joey, 7, to pick up a new kitten in Pontefract, West Yorkshire, and his son in the back screamed as the runaway car behind bumped into him. I guess the car behind was going 30 miles. He hit my car a couple of times and then we came to a stop, he said. Other drivers stopped at the scene, bringing the 4-lane carriageway to a halt. And a FISO and an off-duty female police officer took over the first aid until paramedics arrived. Mr. Barlow said everyone was amazing. It was a real team effort. They got the man on the floor. Then the doctor jumped in as well. The next day, Mr. Barlow received a call from West Yorkshire police thanking him, and he was told the driver has suffered a seizure but was well enough to go home. And he asked for people to think about taking a first aid course and having something in their car that could be used to break a window in an emergency. Florida man had arm bitten off in alligator attack before getting lost in woods for 3 days. She dragged me under 3. A Florida man who had his arm ripped off by an alligator as he swam across a lake has offered some advice, saying leave the gators alone. Eric Marta from Sarasota was taken to hospital after the attack at Lake Manatee Fish Camp in Mayaka City in the U.S. state on 17 July. Now out of hospital and adjusting to life without his arm, he has spoken about the scary incident which saw him maim by the alligator and wandered around lost for 3 days. He said he came across the lake and decided to swim across instead of walk around it. I looked over and there's a gator on my right hand side, so I went to swim, and she got my forearm. So I grabbed her like this. She was trying to roll, but she snapped my head, so my arm went backwards completely, Mr. Marta said. He said he had to fight for his life. She dragged me under 3 times. She already got my arms, so when we came up the third time, she finally did a death roll and took off with my arm. He managed to get out the lake, but then spent 3 days trying to find his way. You can't see anything. Sometimes I feel like I was walking in circles. I didn't know. So I started following the sun and power lines, stuff like that, things I could see. After 3 days in the swamp, he said he stumbled on a fence and a man on the other side. I said, "Hey man, I need some help." And he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "A gator got my arm." And now he's adapting to a new normal with a new perspective. And he has some alligator-based advice. Do not feed the gators, alright? And you guys know who you are, throwing rocks at them and stuff. I've seen it on the job sites. Leave them gators alone, he said. Man, 23, admits killing Canadian teenager he met on dating app. Ashley Westward moved to the UK only 3 months before she was stabbed to death by her boyfriend. A 23-year-old man from Essex has admitted to murdering his teenage Canadian girlfriend. Jack Sippel killed 19-year-old Ashley Westworth from Vernon in British Columbia at a house in Chelmsford in February after meeting her on a dating app. Officers were called to an address in Tennyson Road shortly after 4 p.m. on 1 February after reports of a disturbance. Paramedics tried to save Miss Westmore, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. An inquest hearing was told that she died of stab wounds to the chest. In a brief hearing at Chelmsford Crown Court, several barristers said a psychiatrist had indicated that the defendant was fit to plead. Christopher Paxton, QC for Sippel, said that the issue of fitness is now resolved and requests that the defendant be asked to enter a plea. The court clerk read the single charge of murder, and Sippel, standing in the secure dock in a long white sleeve top with tattoos on his face and hand, replied, "I'm guilty." Judge Christopher Morgan told Sippel, "By your plea of guilty to murder, there's only one sentence that can be passed, and that's a life sentence." He remanded the defendant in custody until the date if found for sentencing. Mr. Westworth moved to Chelmsford in November 2021. She wrote on Facebook. Earlier this year, she posted photos online of her amazing trip to London, where she had been sightseeing. London therapist accused by sister of stealing from rich mother tells court of threatening relationship. Jonathan Phil from Kilburn, northwest London, told Southwark Crown Court, "My mother liked to wear fashionable clothes. She liked to wear skinny jeans and she liked to wear jackets, and she would shop everywhere." A therapist accused by his sister of stealing from their wealthy mother's bank account has told court of their threatening relationship he has with his sibling. Jonathan Field denied 2 charges of theft from his 89-year-old mother, who is reportedly suffering from significant cognitive decline, in a private prosecution from his sister, Louise Radley. Phil, 62, appeared at Southwark Crown Court after being accused of taking more than £1.5 million of Hannah's life savings once she became too ill to look after her financial affairs. The London therapist has now been cleared of stealing £1.3 million from a joint Swiss bank account in his and Mr. Phil's names between May 2015 and November 2017. Judge Geoffrey Parents directed the court jury to return a not guilty verdict after saying, as a matter of law, it is not illegally thief to effectively steal from yourself. Phil denies further charges of their relating to almost £270,000 allegedly stolen from his mother, Irisel Bank Lumley account. This sum is thought to have been taken through withdrawal of cash with ATMs, using Mr. Phil's credit cards for shopping express and making bank transfers between October 2014 and September 2017. Our relationship is non-existent. Phil offered evidence of a fraud relationship with his sister by telling the court how he was banned from her home around 2006 and that their relationship has since gone worse. Phil from Kilburn, northwest London, described their relationship as fraud-framing and non-existent. However, he has an excellent relationship with his mother, who he visits up to 8 times a year. Hi everyone, it's Lily. Great to see you guys today. I wanted to recommend you guys the most playable toy for your pets, and the food refill machine and cleaning machine for your pets, so you don't have to do all that stuff. Let's pretend that you have a long day at work, so you don't want to came back to your house and look like a whole mess inside. While you're gone, your pet is gonna screw all the house up, screw and mess everything up. So you don't want to clean it because you're tired. Okay, so I will show you guys the best machine I have used before. I've tried for five types of different machines, and I feel like this one is much better compared to the other one. So yeah, let's take a look. Slow-moving car crash. There's no quick fix for the UK market. There's no quick fix for the UK market mess. London CNN Business. The Bank of England is struggling to contain a crisis triggered by the UK government brash plans to borrow heavily to pay for tax cuts, feeding fears that the country's financial markets could once again spin out of control. Almost 20 days after Finance Minister Kwasi Kwarteng unveiled his much criticized plan to jumpstart the economy, sparking an investor revolt, the UK bond market and the British pound remain under huge stress. Despite three emergencies interventions by the central bank, yields on benchmark 10-year UK government bonds climbed above 4.59% on Wednesday, near where they were in the immediate aftermath of Kwarteng's announcement last month. The yield on 30-year bonds also rocketed above 5%. Yields rise as bond prices fall, pushing up the cost of borrowing for the government, mortgage holders and business. The country's central bank is in a difficult position. It's trying to restore the UK government lost credibility in markets, though its toolkit isn't designed for this kind of effort. They can't do anything to address the root of the problem, which is confidence in the UK assets, said Richard Maguire, head of race strategy at Rainbow Bank. Yet, after extra support for markets announced this week fell flat, the Bank of England faced calls to do more to help avert another meltdown. The focus is now on whether it should extend to the £65 billion, about $72 billion bond buying program that is announced in late September beyond its Friday end date. Pension funds that were hit hard by the UK bond market route 2 weeks ago say they may need more time to get their affairs in order, and question about the government plans to manage its debts. A key cause of the tumult won't be answered until at least the end of October, when Kwarteng will release additional details on his tax and spending plan. The only solution for the Bank of England is how to extend bond buying a bit longer and to make it bigger, said Bryn Jones, head of fixed income for Rathbones. The market turned around and said, "We need you to do more." Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey isn't budging, for now at least. "You got 3 days left now," he told pension fund managers on Tuesday, emphasizing that the program is temporary. You've got to get this done. Dysfunction continues. The Bank of England said it was forced to act to prevent a self-reinforcing spiral after the market experienced unprecedented selling in the wake of the budget plans revealed by Kwarteng and Prime Minister Liz Truss. As the price of government bonds crashed, some pension funds were asked to pony up billions of pounds in collateral in a scramble for cash. Investment managers were forced to sell whatever they could, including, in some cases, more government bonds. That sent yields even higher, sparking another wave of collateral calls. The central bank's announcement on September 28 that it would buy bonds through October 14 initially claimed the chaos, yet market conditions have started to deteriorate again in recent days as pension funds sell what they can to refill their coffers before the program ends. "There is a fair degree of urgent activities in the industry at the moment," said Steve Dalo, chairman of Penn Trustees, which provides governance services to UK pension program. Investment consultants are working feverishly. Ongoing volatility in the bond market is further complicating those efforts as rising yields once again put hedging strategy at risk. You're having to deal with something of a moving target, and that's probably the essence of the challenge," Delo said. "A tough playbook."